Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the synthesis of yoga with our beloved Ranga. And we are on page, what is
118.
it? 118, beginning with the sentence, if a departure from the world and its activities.
If a departure from the world and its activities, a supreme release and quietude were the sole aim of the seeker, the three great fundamental realizations would be sufficient for the fulfillment of his spiritual life. Concentrated in them alone, he could suffer all other divine or mundane knowledge to fall away from him and himself unencumbered depart into the eternal silence. But he has to take account of the world and its activities, learn what divine truth there may be behind them, and reconcile that apparent opposition between the divine truth and the manifest creation, which is the starting point of most spiritual experience. Here, on another line of approach that he can take, he is confronted with a constant duality, a separation between two terms of existence that seem to be opposites, and their opposition to be the very root of the riddle of the universe. Later, he may and does discover that these two are the two poles. We discover that these are the two poles of one being, connected by two simultaneous currents of energy, negative and positive, in relation to each other, their interaction, the very condition for the manifestation of what is within the being, their reunion, the appointed means for the reconciliation of life's discords and for the discovery of the integral truth of which he is the seeker. So, he is making a distinction of aim between the one who wants to get away from the physical world, including the Buddhists and the Mayavadins and the ascetics. So, they just want to go away from the physical world because in their view, the physical world is permanently imperfect and you can never get the divine here. So, why waste time here? And if the body-mind life is here, in any case it will disappear in time. So, consciousness is the main thing. So, with my consciousness, I go into the higher planes of consciousness, and there are many possibilities. That possibility also we can touch upon after we come to the end of the para. So Srendra is saying, if a departure from the world and its activities, that's interesting because he's adding activities, because if you departure from the world could be death also. So he's not meaning death from the activities. That means you are, it's not a question of death. It's a question of going away from the activities even while the activities are possible here. You have a body-mind life and you are not interested in the activities. If a departure from the world and its activities, a supreme release and quietude were the sole aim of the seeker, the three great fundamental realizations would be sufficient for the fulfillment of his spiritual life.
Can you reflect on that, the three great fundamental realizations?
Of course. The first is the transcendent. You realize the self. That's a transcendent experience. The second is the realization of the cosmic consciousness. And the third is the realization of the divine within oneself. The transcendent, the cosmic, and the
personal,
individual within yourself. So these are the three fundamental experiences.
And they would be the fulfillment of one's life.
Yeah, and also he is not mentioning here, but normally you don't experience all the three together. You experience them separately. If you experience the transcendent, you are very satisfied. It is so wonderful compared to what you were that you think that that's the final. If you are experiencing the divine within yourself, the intimacy and sweetness and love and devotion is so fantastic that you feel that that's enough. Any one aspect of the divine, you feel enough. Or if you have the cosmic consciousness, it is so tremendously overwhelming. You are one with the universe. So that's enough for you. So any of these three would be enough, Sridhar is saying, if your intention is not to remain in the physical world and partake of its activities. That would be enough. Okay? And his purpose would be fulfilled. And what would his purpose? To escape from suffering, pain, rebirth. Don't want to be here subject to the lower level 1. Okay? So, concentrated in them alone, he could suffer all other divine or mundane knowledge to fall away from him, and himself, unencumbered, depart from the eternal into the eternal silence. So, unencumbered means he is now free of body, mind, life. They are encumbrances. They are big obstacles to his spiritual progress.
What do these souls do when they merge into the eternal? Is it simply...
Okay, so that's a possibility that we have to speak about. When a soul is liberated, when a soul is not liberated, but there is natural death, and you have not realized your soul, you have to get rid of these 3 sheaths first. The bodily sheath, which gets decomposed, then the vital sheath and the mental sheath, and then what remains of you is your psychic being. The psychic being goes to the psychic world, reviews its life, and takes birth again. Generally said in a very vague way, or a very general way, 2 years.
2 years.
2 to 3 years. But it can be more, it can be less. Okay. That's a normal procedure. But when the soul has realized itself, when the individual has realized what he is, that he is a soul and not the body, mind, life, he has a choice. He can continue to remain in level 2 with the spiritual planes of consciousness for as long as he wants. Or he can disappear into the infinite. Like the Buddhists, their aim is to go back to where they came from. Dissolve even the soul. The soul also can go back into where it came from, and now there is like the river merging into the sea. Finished. No more river. It has become the sea. So that's also possible. But, or you may want to take birth again. If you are a Sri Aurobindonian, then you want to take birth again. With liberation this time. Not being a prisoner of the senses. So all these possibilities are there. You can live for as long as you want in these. In fact, there are many worlds. There is the world of Ananda. There is the world of light. There is the world of Sat. There are so many others. Janaloka, Anandaloka, Goloka. All these worlds are there. And you can remain there permanently if you want. Just like the gods are also there in the overmind consciousness. So you can live there, but the difference is that there are natives in those planes of consciousness, but you are an evolutionary being who is deciding to remain there for as long as you want. That also is possible. So there is a choice that soul has. Sri Aurobindo prefers to become perfect in consciousness and come back into the physical world and become the divine's instrument and partake of the play of the manifestation, the Ananda. Become one with the divine and enjoy his play in the universe. So all those are possible. So he is contrasting his own yoga with the others. So the fundamental realization would be sufficient for the fulfillment of his spiritual life. Concentrated in them alone, he could suffer all other divine and mundane knowledge to fall away from him. So what he is saying is, divine or mundane knowledge. You don't want, one aspect is enough for you. If you are a bhakta, if you are a devotee, you don't care for knowledge. I have got intimacy with the divine, that's enough for me. Or if you are a Karma yogi, you will put on the nature of the divine without necessarily the knowledge. So, any one of these would be enough. That's what he's saying. To fall away from him and himself unencumbered, without the encumbrances of body, mind, life, depart into the eternal silence. But in Srimada's yoga, he has to take account of the world and its activities. He has to take account of the world and its activities. Don't run away. So, and its activities. Learn what divine truth there may be behind them and reconcile that apparent opposition between the divine truth and the manifest creation. The divine truth is level 2 and level 3. But the manifest creation is the physical world. So there is a difference between the physical world and they are opposites in fact. They seem to be opposites. But Srimad says you have to reconcile them. I'll read further. But he has to take account of the world and its activities, learn what divine truth there may be behind them, and reconcile that apparent opposition between the divine truth and the manifest creation, which is the starting point of most spiritual experience. So, that is the starting point. The apparent opposition is the starting point. When you normally hear in the Jnana Yoga, you go experience the self and you see that there is a clear difference between spirit and matter. The matter seems to be even illusion or temporary. It depends on or even if you are a Sankhya follower, then Purusha and Prakriti are eternally separate. So that's an apparent separation is the starting point of most spiritual experience. Okay? Here, on each line of approach that he can take, he is confronted with a constant duality. The duality is Purusha Prakriti, consciousness and force. A separation between two terms of existence that seem to be opposites, and their opposition to be the very root of the riddle of the universe. So what is this opposition? Spirit is one. The physical world is the many. Spirit is infinite. The physical world is finite forms. The spirit is eternal. Here it is, everything is transient. So apparent opposition. The spirit is outside time and space. The physical world is in time and space. So everything is opposite. The spirit is formless. Here there are all forms. So, but that's an apparent opposition. It is not a real opposition. So he will explain further. Okay? A separation between two terms of existence that seem to be opposites, and their opposition to be the very root of the riddle of this universe. Later, he may and does discover that these are the two poles of one being, negative and positive. Okay, so two poles of one being connected by two simultaneous currents of energy, negative and positive. The negative energy is a static condition. The positive condition, the energy is a movement here. So they are opposites. There it is completely static and here it is completely movement. There is nothing which is permanently stable here in the universe. So that's what he is saying. So, but you have to reconcile them. They are not opposites, but they are only two aspects of the same thing. Again, we come back to the explanation for the understanding of this truth. Ice, water, water vapor, essentially the same, yet seem to be different. Water vapor is totally different from ice. They are two forms of the same thing. Essentially same, but two different forms. So, movement and silence are the same, two different forms of the same thing. Then, consciousness and unconsciousness also, two different forms of the same thing. Just like light and darkness. Light and darkness also are essentially the same, but They seem to be opposites. Even in science also, the same truth is there. You have energy and heat. There is heat, okay? But cold is not the opposite of heat. It's the absence of heat. There is no such thing fundamentally as cold. It doesn't exist. It's only absence of heat. So unconsciousness is the absence of consciousness. The movement is the absence of silence. You can think of it in that way. So that's why that you can recognize when you go to level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness. There you can see that they are two different things, but okay, both are connected in some way, but they are different. They become one at the third level. That's why we go on speaking of level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1, matter, life and mind. You see the forms, you see the many and you think they are real. You have an ego and you feel yourself separate from everybody else. Ignorance is the hallmark of level 1. Clear? You go out of your body-mind life, you go to this, separate yourself from body-mind life, go to level 2, which according to Sri Aurobindo, he makes 4 planes. Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, overmind. With slight differences. Not very slight, but differences are there. And in these planes of spiritual consciousness, you see that Purusha and Prakriti are both real, but they are separated. If you have the cosmic consciousness, you will see that they are essentially same. Both are there, but they are separated. You go to the third level of the supermind, and there you will see that they are not two separate things, they are one.
How does one go from the level 1 most efficaciously to level 2?
Only one word, yoga. You have to make the effort, and there are many, many systems. That's all. You have to get rid of your ego, you have to get rid of the sense of separation. And how to do that? There are so many yogas. Each yoga will lead you to that, level 2. But to go from level 2 to level 3 is not that simple. Because you are so satisfied that you don't want to go any further. But there is someone like Sri Aurobindo who says, wait. The ultimate truth must be one, but I am seeing two. Maybe they are both real, but they are two. But I want only one truth, ultimate truth. And that you have to go to level 3. Not that there aren't any levels above that. There are, but nobody has gone there to give a report. And even if a soul, individual soul, goes to the level 4, he can't come back to give a report. He loses the connection with the physical world, and that goes. There is that the silver cord that connects the soul with the it's a well-known phenomena for all. There is a silver cord that binds you, subtle cord that binds you with the body-mind life. That's why when you go out of your body at night, you can enter back into it because the silver cord is connecting you. But if you go too high, if the silver cord gets cut, you can't come back into your body. So when you go to the 4th level, Sri Aurobindo is described there as the Parabrahman. If you are standing on the outside the door, you can look in. But if you go inside, you can't come out again. There's a level 4. But until now, nobody has gone there to give a report. So that is there. There are planes about the Superman also. There have to be, because the divine is infinite. So there is no end to it. So we come back to our text. And he has to reconcile the apparent opposition between the divine truth and the manifest creation, which is the starting point of most spiritual experience. Here, on each line of approach that he can take, he is confronted with a constant duality, a separation between two terms of existence that seem to be opposites, and their opposition to be the very root of the riddle of the universe. Later, he may and does discover that these are the two poles of one being, connected by two simultaneous currents of energy, negative and positive, in relation to each other. Now, you must make an interesting point here, because he is not saying that the divine is positive and the world is negative. No. It's in relation to each other. If this is positive for the materialist, that is negative. If that is positive for the ascetic, then this is negative for the ascetic. So it's in relation to each other. Okay, so that's very interesting, he's saying. And in relation to each other, their interaction, the very condition for the manifestation of what is within the being, their reunion, the appointed means for the reconciliation of life's discords and for the discovery of the integral truth of which he is a seeker. Who is the seeker? The integral seeker. Now, Sridhar is saying that last bit, okay? He has to find that spirit and matter are two poles of the same being. Consciousness, unconsciousness, light, darkness. They are two poles of the same being. They are two, but they are not opposites. They both exist, but they are not opposites. But why are they so different? So, to get the secret of that, you have to go to the third level. That's what he's saying. And you have to reunite them. Their reunion, the appointed means for the reconciliation of life's discords. Now, what are the life's discords? Death, incapacity, unconsciousness, ignorance. These are life's discords. They can disappear in the level 2. When you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness, there is no ignorance, there is no death for you. You realize that. But that death continues here. So, he is saying reconciliation of life's discords is possible only at the third level. In other words, once you go to the third level, you can come down to the physical world and still be free of death, disease, and ignorance.
So when he speaks of the discovery of the integral truth, this is not applicable to the Buddhists and others.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Because for them, the dichotomy is permanent.
Yeah.
But for Sri Aurobindo, the dichotomy is apparent. There is a dichotomy at this level. But if you go up, you will see that it is apparent dichotomy. But there is no reconciliation level 2. You go to the third level, reconciliation. Not reconciliation, unity. Reconciliation is two are there, but two friends have quarreled, but they can be reconciled, but they are still two. But you go to the third level, not reconciliation.
Unification.
Unity.
Unification.
That's what he's saying. So that last bit, that's the one. So let me see. The supramental level reunites the two poles. That's what he's saying. And we know that because all the Indian temples have many icons of the Ardhanarishwara, the half man, half woman. The man part is the consciousness and the woman, the female part is the energy. And that can be experienced also in level 2 partially. You can experience these things even at the level 2. But the permanent experience, realization, not experience, is only at level 3. So that's what he's saying in the para. There are many who want to give up the physical world and go away. So there is no objection to that. He says, if that's what you want to do, fine, do that. No problem. But I have a better idea. I want to do this. Okay, we read the next one?
Yes.
For on one side, he is aware of the self everywhere. Now, who is this he? The integral seeker. Okay. For on one side, he is aware of the self, this self everywhere. this everlasting spirit substance, Brahman, the eternal, the same self-existence here in time, behind each appearance, he sees or senses, and timeless beyond the universe. I'll read that again. The same self-existence here in time, behind each appearance he sees, behind each appearance he sees or senses, and timeless beyond the universe. So he has to reconcile the two. He has this strong, overpowering experience of a self that is neither our limited ego nor our mind, life, or body, worldwide, but not outwardly phenomenal. Yet, to some spirit sense in him, more concrete than any form or phenomenon, universal, yet not dependent for its being on anything in the universe or on the whole totality of the universe. If all this were to disappear, its extinction would make no difference to this eternal of his constant intimate experience. He is sure of an inexpressible self-existence, which is the essence of himself and all things. He is intimately aware of an essential consciousness of which thinking mind and life sense and body sense are only partial and diminished figures. A consciousness with an illimitable force in it, of which all energies are the outcome, but which is yet not explained or accounted for by the sum or power or nature of all these energies together. He feels, he lives in an inalienable self-existent bliss, which is not this lesser transient joy or happiness or pleasure. A changeless imperishable infinity, a timeless eternity, a self-awareness which is not this receptive and reactive or tentacular mental consciousness, but is behind and above it and present too below it, even in what we call inconscience, a oneness in which there is no possibility of any other existence, are the fourfold character of this settled experience. Yet, this eternal self-existence is seen by him also as a conscious time spirit, bearing the stream of happenings, a self-extended spiritual space containing all things and beings, a spirit substance which is the very form and material of all that seems non-spiritual, temporary and finite. For all that is transitory, temporal, spatial, bounded, is yet felt by him to be in its substance and energy and power no other than the one, the eternal, the infinite. The whole para is describing when you experience this self everywhere. Okay, that's the beginning of the. So it's quite detailed.
But it's the integral yoga, basically.
Pardon?
Is it not the integral yoga, basically?
We'll read and then we'll see what
Okay.
he's saying. Okay, so because the self is not necessarily the. It is one aspect of that, certainly. I'll have to look carefully. Okay. For on one side, he is aware of the self everywhere. Okay, so he's saying one side. So it can't be the supramental, it's not.
But
Yeah.
as it continues.
On one side, he is aware of the self everywhere. So you experience the self and you see that it is everywhere. He is explaining what he means. This everlasting spirit substance. Remember that the ultimate truth is Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. Four things which are absolutely one. There is a consciousness, there is a force, and there is Ananda. But they are all one. And they are bound by, and they are all a substance. And that substance is very, very subtle. Very subtle. But it is substance. That is Sat. That Sat becomes matter here, gross matter. At the highest level, it is subtle matter. So, That's what I mean by spirit substance. Don't think that the divine is not substance. He is very, very, it is substance. If you want to build a world, you need a substance. So, if you want to build a car, you need the substance of steel. If you want to build a pot, you need the substance of clay. You need substance. And that substance is Sat for creating the world. So, they often use the word existence, or they often use in Indian terms also truth. But that also you can see why they use the word truth. Because what is truth? Sat in Sanskrit is also truth. It stands for truth also. Sat is the present participle of the word, of the root to be, to us. Us is to exist. So Sat is that which is existing. And in the physical world, what is the most obvious thing which is existing? Matter. And it's a substance. But this is gross substance. So Sat is the subtlest of substance. Srivendra uses 3 words. He uses existence. Okay? He uses being or existence for the highest, substance for the subtler words, and matter for the lowest. It's all the same. Okay? Substance taking 3 forms. Just like again, ice, water, water vapor. It's the same thing. It's a substance. But this substance is consciousness. We don't think that a stone can be conscious, but this substance is consciousness. In fact, there is a consciousness in stone, but at a very low level. You don't see it. So all the 3 are together. So I come back to this sentence. For on one side, he is aware of this self everywhere, this everlasting spirit substance. Okay, it is there. Brahman, the eternal. The same self-existence here in time, behind each appearance he sees or senses. So what is the appearance? What does he see and sense? Physical forms. So behind the physical forms, this self is there. That's what he's saying. Look carefully. The same self-existence here in time, behind each appearance, the form. And form, because he is seeing and sensing. So when he is seeing and sensing, it's a form. And behind that form is a reality which the ascetic and the Buddhists don't see. They don't see that. Okay? So,
but timeless beyond the universe.
Yes, we'll come to that. Senses and timeless beyond the universe. So he is there everywhere. So in matter, in the universe, and timeless beyond the universe. This substance is there everywhere. He has this strong, overpowering experience of a self that is neither our limited ego nor our mind, life and body. Worldwide, it is there everywhere, but not outwardly phenomenal. Phenomenal means it is not subject to time and space, and it is not in movement. It is something static, okay, permanent. Yet to some spirit sense in him, more concrete than any form or phenomenon. Universal, yet not dependent for its being on anything in the universe or on the whole totality of the universe. So this self is the cause of the universe. If the universe disappears, the self does not disappear. But if the self disappears, there can be no universe. It does not depend on it. Okay? Yet to some spirit sense in him, more concrete than any form or phenomenon. Now that's another thing we may mention. The subtler the form, the more concrete it is to spiritual experience. Sounds very contradictory, but that is true. In a way, you can sense that even in the physical world. Okay? When you have a strong emotion or an attachment to somebody, it is an overwhelming experience, but it's not material. It is so real. I'll make it even more obvious. You fall in love with somebody. It'll change your whole life. You'll be either running after the person or thinking of the person all the time. It is subtle, yet it is completely so concrete. This concreteness here can become 10 times more concrete in the spiritual planes of consciousness. So the more subtle, the more concrete and more real. Okay, so that's what it is. So, yet to some spirit sense in him, more concrete than any form or phenomenon. Universal, yet not dependent for its being on anything in the universe or on the whole totality of the universe. If all this were to disappear, he means the universe, its extinction would make no difference to the eternal of his constant intimate experience. The self would still continue to remain. That's what he's saying. In fact, that's what the Buddhists experience. They experience the self as absolutely concrete and permanent, and the physical world is not important at all. They even see it as illusion. So, he is sure of an inexpressible self-existence, which is the essence of himself and all things. So this Sat is a subtle substance which is creating everything. He is creating the individual, the cosmos, and even the forms in the cosmos. Okay, so he is intimately aware of an essential consciousness of which thinking mind, life, sense and body sense are only partial and diminished figures. So first he has said away self-existence. He is aware of a substance. He is aware of a consciousness of which thinking mind and life sense and body sense are only partial and diminished figures. A consciousness with an illimitable force in it. So he is aware of a substance, a consciousness and a force. Okay, so this is what he's saying. In it, of which all energies are the outcome, but which is yet not explained or accounted for by the sum or power or nature of all these energies together. He feels, he lives in an inalienable self-existent bliss, which is not this lower transient joy or happiness or pleasure. Lesser transient joy and happiness, pleasure is what we experience as pleasure. But that is experienced without any cause. In the physical world, all pleasure has a starting point and a cause and an ending. It ends. But there, it generates itself. It is self-existent Ananda. It doesn't depend on anything. That's what he's saying. A changeless, imperishable infinity, a timeless eternity, self-awareness which is not this receptive and reactive or tentacular mental consciousness, but is behind and above it and present too below it, even in what we call inconscience. A oneness in which there is no possibility of any other existence are the fourfold character of this settled experience. So, we have to explain the words receptive and reactive, tentacular. So he is aware of a consciousness and awareness which is not receptive and reactive. In the physical world, we are receiving things from the physical world. Our senses are receiving things from the physical world and we are reacting to it. If I see something, I have a reaction. If I hear something, I have a reaction. So there is an incoming inferent, some will call them inferent senses. They are coming, hitting the senses and going into you. There is an incoming impact from the physical world and you are interacting with the physical world. There is constantly, so receptive and reactive. And this is a very big point in Indian psychology, which I am not aware of in Western psychology, but maybe there, I don't know. I have never heard about it. The universe and the individual are constantly connected with each other. So the universe is interacting with you through the senses and you are interacting with the universe with your, there is a name for it also. They call them the Jnanendriya and the Karmendriya. The Jnanendriya are the Indriya, the senses which are giving you knowledge. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch. But there are karmendriyas, that which allows you to do work and interact with the physical world. Your hands, With your hands, you can have an effect in the physical world. I can pet somebody, I can slap somebody. It has an effect in the physical world. That is reactive. And your legs, you can do the same with your legs. And the two organs at the lower end of the body, you are reacting with the world. And there is a fifth one also with which you react with the world, with your speech.
Yes, yes.
Your speech can have an effect in the physical world. So that's what I mean by reactive and receptive and reactive. The Sanskrit words are Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. Okay? Indriya is senses. So receptive senses, reactive senses.
But what about tentacular?
Yeah. Tentacular means feeling. Tentacular, mental consciousness. Okay, let me see what I have put on tentacular. Tentacular. Any of various elongated, tactile or prehensile flexible organs that occur on the head or near the mouth in many animals used for feeling or grasping or locomotion. Tentacular. Tentacles. Like the octopus has tentacles. So this is the tentacular. So the self is not tentacular. It is one. That's what he's saying. Okay? It is not this mental consciousness, but it's behind and above and present to below it. So this is the fourfold. So fourfold consciousness, substance, consciousness, force, and finally, what's he saying? No, the fourfold he's saying, there's above, there's inside, below and around. Okay? There is a superconscient, cosmic, superconscient, intraconscient, okay, subconscient, inconscient and circumconscient. So all this he can experience. The self he is seeing everywhere. He is seeing above, he is seeing in the universe, he is seeing in himself, he is seeing even in the subconscious. Surendra said that. He is seeing in the subconscious and all around him also. So this is the fourfold experience. The fourfold experience is existence, consciousness, force and bliss. That's right. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. Okay, he is seeing everywhere. And this is the self. Yet, this eternal self-existence is seen by him also as a conscious time spirit, bearing the stream of happenings, a self-extended spiritual space containing all things and beings, a spirit substance which is the very form and material of all that seems non-spiritual, temporary and finite. We'll look at this sentence. He's saying, he has just now told us that behind all these forms and transients, you see the self which is permanent. Now he is saying that yet this eternal self-existence which is permanent is seen by him, who? The integral yogi, one who is seeker, also as a conscious time spirit bearing the stream of happenings. In other words, it is connected with the world. It is supporting the world. You are right. So, very clearly, this experience is for the one who is an integral seeker from the third level. Okay? He goes into details, so at the end of it, you know that he is talking of that. See? So, for all that is transitory, temporal, spatial, bounded. Look at each word, it describes the world. The world is transitory, it is temporal, subject to time, and space, spatial, and bounded. Even the universe, which seems to be infinite, is a bounded infinite. It's a bounded infinite.
Finite.
Finite. Okay. The forms are finite, but is the universe finite? Is a question. That's why you have to use the word bounded infinite.
Yes.
In fact, science says that if you travel constantly, you will come back to the starting point. Space is curved, they say. It's impossible for the mind to conceive of something which is infinite.
Yeah.
How can it? Where is the end? There has to be some end. So, for all that is transitory, temporal, spatial, bounded, is yet felt by him to be in its substance and energy and power, no other than the one, the eternal, the infinite. So he is completely seeing spirit and matter as one. That's what he's saying. So definitely it's the integral yoga who is seeing it from the supramental point of view. We stop here today.
Thank you, Ranga. Namaste all.